early look of the SEC Championship, which will feature Texas versus Georgia. This is the rematch. I'm excited about it. What's up, kidfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of the new segments that we're doing as we head toward the postseason. The first 12-team college football playoff is on its way, and we got one final weekend to find out just what the seeding should look like ahead of what is going to be one outstanding 6-week stretch of football. We start the playoffs on December 20th. We don't stop playing ball until January 20th, and it's all still here to play for. Two of these teams, right? These two teams, we think they're both going to get into the college football playoff, no matter the result, unless one absolutely gets stomped out by the other. I think Texas is in, period. I think Georgia, they should be in, but winning the SEC championship is the best way to ensure not only that they get in, but that they get a first-round bye, which I'm not necessarily sure is the thing you want to get here. I still think that the 5 seed is the better place to be than the 1, 2, 3, 4 spot because you're going to get the 12 seed. 12 seed is probably going to be not just the worst team in the college football playoff, but also gives you a nice clean road and a home game for that 12 seed where you get to play another of the weaker teams. You're going to play the weakest of the Power 4, of the highest ranked conference champions. I think this is also really going to come back to how these teams look. So the way I actually want to get into this is talking about the first time these teams met in Austin, where it was one hell of a butt kicking by Georgia to Texas. I mean, at one point, we got Texas fans throwing water bottles on the field, acting out, being stupid. You got Steve Sarkisian going over there telling them to please calm the hell down so we can finish playing this football game. Well, he needed somebody to calm down, and it was his offense. That offense was getting absolutely destroyed by that Texas defensive front. Jalen Walker in particular, Michael Williams, they were having their way with that Texas offensive line, unlike we've seen anybody else able to do this season. Quinn Ewers didn't play great football in that game either. And it feels like that might be on the offing in this game too. Now, some things have changed for Texas and some things have not. The defense, though, has remained dominant. Matter of fact, I think it is fair to say that this Texas defense looks a lot like Georgia's 2021, Georgia's 2022 defenses that led them to winning national championships. And we're getting to that part of the year where the separation has begun, and the teams that are coming in with the better defenses and an offense that just kind of can get it done, those are the teams you really have to watch for. Those are the teams that are scary. And for the first time in recent memory, but certainly in the college football playoff era, it feels like Georgia is walking into a football game where they will not have the best defense and against a team that is statistically better than them in damn near every category offensively and defensively. Following what was a statement win in a renewed rivalry that hadn't been played for 13 years, Alfred Collins, probably going to end up as an All-American somewhere, said, "We are the best defense in the nation," and they showed that. That defense shut out A&M. The pick six is not on the defense. That defense was dominant. They stopped the run. They stopped Marcel Reed from doing anything. And if that defense shows up against Georgia, that's the SEC champion. I also think it's worth putting into context what this defense has done, both with this college football playoff era and inside of what they historically have done. So this Texas defense is allowing just 11.7 points per game. So 12, right? That is the fewest that a Texas defense has allowed since 1983 when they were still running the wishbone and they were facing dudes that really didn't throw the forward pass all that much, right? Talking about a team that gave up 8.7 points per game in the Fred Aker years, right? That was the last time that that defense was that dominant. Not Mac Brown's 2005 defense or his 2001 defense. None of those teams were as dominant as Pete Kwiatkowski's defense this year. I sincerely believe that that team that is going to be outstanding. I think that Pete Kwiatkowski ought to be up for the Broyles Award if he isn't already. He's going to be number one on my ballot going into this thing, and when we'll see. I think it's worth pointing out also that there are only 2 teams that have put up 20 points or more on this Texas defense all year, and one of them is Georgia. The other one is Vanderbilt. Speaking of Vanderbilt, their loss to Tennessee doesn't really help the argument, but the Michigan win against Ohio State does about the schedule that they played, because Georgia is the only team that is ranked in the college football playoff selection committee's updated ranking on the thing. I don't think that should matter that much, but if you are one of those folks that doesn't want to talk about the rankings year in, year out, I don't want to hear from you. If you don't want to talk about the rankings week in and week out and you only want to tell me that the rankings matter one time a year, I'm not listening to you. I watched this Georgia team, and they are up and down. When Carson Beck is on, they're pretty damn good. When Carson Beck is off, they're fighting for their lives, dog. And that defense that he's going to face against Texas is once again going to challenge them. The Texas team that won the 2005 national championship game, they averaged giving up 16.4 points per game. This team has given up 11.7. 5 points is damn near a touchdown. Like, that's phenomenal. And in this era where we know that everybody's bigger, faster, stronger, say Vince Young and Reggie Bush, it's more remarkable to me what they've been able to do in a loaded SEC. In their first year of SEC competition, they're going to do what A&M hasn't done ever, right? They got to the SEC championship game. They can be the first team to join the SEC since they began playing conference championship games to win the SEC championship, which is, again, pretty outstanding, pretty wild. I think that, we're in a place where anybody can get beat except maybe Oregon, who is the only undefeated team left in the entire sport. But the more I look at this game early and the more I look at the results that have come from Georgia and Texas since they played each other, the more I'm leaning toward Texas. Well, when we do the prediction segment, I'll get down on this, but needing a 44-42 8 overtime victory against Georgia Tech in your last outing does not bode well for Georgia, who, by the way, basically played another football game, if we're keeping score here, going into the SEC championship game on Saturday, which is not a small thing, right? I also got to take into account here that we are looking at a Georgia team that damn near gave it up to Florida with the third-string quarterback back there in Aiden Warner. A Georgia team that did get beat by Ole Miss and damn near got beat by Kentucky and got beat by an Alabama team that we all know is good but not great. Probably not even going to make the college football playoff. Certainly not going to defend their SEC championship from last year. So I think we're still looking at this, and the team that we thought we saw play against Texas is the team we thought we would see the rest of the way, and it's just not been the case. I don't think any of us expected them to take that L the way that they did going into that final year, into the final half of the season. Meanwhile, Texas just picked up the pace. 31-14 win against, I'm going to make sure that I get this part right? So Texas, after the Georgia loss, went back to work, got that win against Vanderbilt. It was a 3-point win, but they got it. Florida, 49-17. So common opponent, they destroyed Florida. Georgia struggled against Florida until late. I mean, that game was tied at 20 going into the fourth quarter. Florida turns out to be a good football team, but not with Aiden Warner at quarterback, which is how they finished the game. DJ Lagway at quarterback, it's a better argument. Arkansas, they beat them 20-10, but that was also kind of like this game against A&M, one where the defense just sat on them, and then they ran out the ball, ran out the clock, which is vintage SEC football and the kind of SEC football that usually wins championships. Ask Nick Saban. Ask Kirby Smart. I didn't expect to see Texas become what Georgia was, what Alabama was from an identity standpoint, and yet that's what it's turned out to be. Beat a bad Kentucky team is 4-8, 31-14, and then 17-7 win against A&M that did not look and or feel that close. This while we're talking about a Georgia team that, again, they got the win against Texas, but then they struggle against Florida. They lose to Ole Miss. They end up doing what they need to against Tennessee, but that was in a game where we got to see good Carson Beck, right? Carson Beck returned to form here. And then UMass is UMass. I mean, they fired Don Brown going into that thing. And then they struggled against Georgia Tech once again. So the streaky Carson Beck continues to be the bugaboo for that offense and what they can do from a passing point. And because Nate Frazier's your best tailback, it's not to say Nate Frazier's bad, it is to say that if you're not able to throw that ball out there to Cash Jones, you might be in trouble because it doesn't look like Carson Beck is able to really force the ball down the field like he should to guys like Dominic Levitt, Arian Smith, and Dylan Bell. I think they have the guys. He just hasn't been able to do it. He's also playing pretty piss-poor football here of late compared to what he was doing last year. He's already thrown 12 interceptions. He didn't throw that many last year, right? And we're talking about Quinn Ewers throwing 7. who hadn't been great, but he's outplayed Carson Beck most of the year. Difference is Carson Beck is more volatile, meaning that Carson Beck can go for 350, he can go for 400. We haven't seen Quinn Ewers do that because he hasn't really had to, and he was out for some games that we got to see Arch Manning play a little bit. Quintravion Wisner has emerged as the bell cow back for a Texas team that is decided to run the ball late in the season. And that is also indicative of a team that is chasing national championships. The closer we get to it getting cold, the better that they look running the football. You better watch your back, because that dude went for a gaudy number against A&M. 186 yards on 33 carries. The previous week, 26 carries for 158 against Kentucky, and he's proven he can do less with more. 13 carries for 118 against Oklahoma earlier this year. And again, Jaden Blue is the Cash Jones of that Texas offense. He's great catching the ball out of the backfield. Just got to hold on to the football. He's got a few problems holding on to the football here of late. Gunnar Helm versus Oscar Delp, I think, is a really great tight end matchup. I think both of those quarterbacks make great use of their tight ends, and they're going to have to in this game. But more than that, I want to see what's going to happen with Kelvin Banks, because Kelvin Banks being able to play in this game is going to be huge for him, because he is the best left tackle in the sport. But he got sunned by that Georgia defensive front, and especially Mykel Williams, who was eaten, right? Jalen Walker was eaten. Smile Munden was eaten. Malachi Starks is a Thorpe Award finalist, but I think you've got guys on the outside that can absolutely go after that secondary. Isaiah Bond can fly. Matthew Golden can fly. DeAndre Moore can fly. Ryan Wingo can fly. I mean, anytime you can cast off Jonte Cook, because you don't really need him like that, to say nothing of his presence in the locker room, you're in a really good spot. I think that you're a really good football team. And again, as I said, every major statistical category belongs to the Longhorns. They score more points than the Georgia Bulldogs, 34.8 to 34.1. They allow fewer points by damn near half, 11.67 or 11.7 to 20.5 for Georgia. Georgia's given up 20.5 points per game. The Texas Longhorns put up more yards, 450 to 425. They also have been, the only thing they haven't done is pass for more yards, right? It's 297 for Georgia, 275 for Texas. And then rushing yards, 175.5 for Texas and 128 for Georgia. And then third down efficiency, Texas is a better football team, 44.3% to 41.6%. Look, we can keep doing this. And I think the spread is 2.5 to Texas. It'll probably grow, given what I'm telling you right now, and given as people are going to do what you're doing right now, which is take a big, long view of this Texas-Georgia team early to try to get in what you're getting in. For those of y'all that do ask, I don't bet football. I don't bet sports. I don't bet. No, I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? I like money. I like my money. I like to hold on to my money. You do that, though. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to just tell you that I think the Texas is a really great football team, and I'm going to wait, again, until later in this week to find out exactly what I think the prediction should be. But the more you look at this game, the more it feels like Texas is going to be able to do what no other SEC program has done since joining the SEC, and that is win the conference championship and then supplant themselves as the number 2 team if they haven't been already by the time the rankings come out. I expect the College Football Playoff Selection Committee rankings on Tuesday will be Texas at number 2. But should Oregon fumble against Penn State, would you make Penn State the number 1 team? I don't think so. I think you would make Texas the number 1 team, and getting to avenge this only loss would be huge for their ego and huge for the story of their season, to say nothing of what it could mean for the college football playoff going forward. Very excited about this game. Very excited to see what this Texas defense is capable of. We got 2 of the 3 Jim Thorpe Award finalists in this thing, in Jahdae Barron and Caleb Downs. Jahdae Barron and Malachi Starks. Caleb Downs plays at Ohio State. I'm also still trying to figure out how Travis Hunter doesn't make it as a finalist. I vote on that award, selection committee on that award. I get pushed out on that one. Excited about the SEC championship game. Excited about what Texas might be able to do. And not for nothing, but Texas has been in the doldrums for the last 15 years, and finally getting an opportunity to shine these last couple of years. Cool, I guess. I'm not going to begrudge you, Texas, though. If you can go win it, you're winning it the hard way. You're doing it in the SEC. You're doing it against Georgia, and you'll have to do it against what we think is going to be a pretty damn good Big Ten champion along the way. Let's see what you can do. Let's see if you can come to play.